I'm praying she's gone now. I'm praying this is the end. Don't you think Jeremy Corbyn's right when he goes and talks to all those terrorists, Diane Abbott? The stormtroopers, let's go. I do not care about youth in Asia, so stop the rumors.
Okay. And he took me to the tomb of Karl Marx.
I think this is...
That was Jeremy Corbyn's idea of a date.
Yes, I think this is in the category of...
Based? Wait, exactly. Corbyn's based?
So it's that relationship.
The Hasidic Jews of Brooklyn...
I wonder what ethnicity or religion these guys are. Guys, do we know who Diane Abbott is? Do we know Diane Abbott? So, okay, Diane Abbott is this British MP, Labour MP. Has been a MP for a very long time. Was very, very close with Corbyn when they were younger. Very close with Corbyn. Very, very close, okay? With Corbyn when they were younger. And she is, like, renowned for being just a complete idiot. Like, I don't know how she keeps her seat for so long. She's like a total idiot. She's actually just so dumb. And she's had so many terrible moments in interviews. And she's had another terrible moment, I think. Another, not necessarily an interview, but we'll pull it up in a moment. But first, let's... For anyone that doesn't know, let's watch some classic Diane Abbott moments.
So how much would 10,000 police officers cost?
Well, if we recruit the 10,000 police men and women over a 4-year period, we believe it'll be about £300,000.
£300,000?
So 10,000 police officers will cost £300,000. Not making a lot of sense. You don't have to know the conversion rate to know that doesn't make a lot of sense.
We believe it'll be about £300,000.
£300,000?
Sorry,
10,000 police officers? What are you paying them?
No, I mean...
Why have they done laugh track on this? It's not that is not a funny edit.
How much will they cost?
They will cost... It will cost...
You're not funny. Don't put funny little edits in your gaff compilation videos. Do they stop after this one?
In October 2016, the mayor...
An important...
suggested...
No, they don't. Oh my god. Okay, maybe this one's better.
We were getting, and have had for some time, is almost daily abuse, being called a bitch, a rape threats, people saying I should be hanged, and it reached a particular pitch in the last few weeks. And I thought to myself, had I known it would be like this 30 years on from being elected, I'd have thought twice for running for Parliament at all. Jeremy's the one with the mandate. We will have a discussion.
So the public are being mean to me, so I wouldn't have run at all if I knew it was going to be like this. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
We will have an agreed position.
You have a mandate, don't you?
I didn't...
Well, you're an elected MP. You have a mandate.
Yes, but I didn't contest the leadership election.
But don't you feel that all the members of the shadow cabinet actually represent Labour voters who have given them a mandate just as much as the Labour members who voted for Jeremy Corbyn have given him one?
Any MP represents their constituency. When it comes to the framework, when it comes to the framework of the Labour Party, only Jeremy represents the party as a whole. And you have to respect the fact that he had the biggest vote of any leader since the war.
Yeah, but I don't recall either you or Jeremy Corbyn respecting previous leaders. You rebelled, you took different positions.
Yes, but the point here is that Jeremy's position is the one the members have, and I think members will be even more strongly going to bomb
Well,
him.
members have tended to select the leader in the past. You haven't respected them in the past.
No, I think when I voted against the Iraq war, it didn't have the support of ordinary members, and we found that out.
Yeah, but that's not the only thing you or Jeremy Corbyn have opposed the previous leaders on. He, as we know, has rebelled 500 times.
Yes, but you'll find that whenever Jeremy voted against the whip, he was voting in line with party policy. And we have policy on Iraq. And the other thing is that we debated bombing Syria.
Yeah, the membership queue. Thank you.
party conference.
Can I just unpack that? When he voted against the whip, he was voting in line with party policy.
Well, you take tuition fees.
Who says party policy?
You take tuition fees. Party conference never voted on tuition fees. But my point is that...
Well, therefore it wasn't party policy to oppose it. I mean, in fact, it was introduced, the Brown report was commissioned by a Labour government.
We can quibble, but we're on the verge of war. Jeremy reflects where Labour Party members are. We had a debate at Labour Party conference. We've got a resolution, and the view.
So that's all that matters is what the activists in the Labour Party think, not what experienced elected MPs. And I come back to this: elected MPs, the shadow cabinet is elected.
We're all elected, and what matters is what will keep the British people safe. And people must look at what Cameron has said and make a judgment.
So what you're saying when you say that Jeremy Corbyn appoints the shadow cabinet, not the shadow cabinet appoints him, what you're basically saying is if they oppose him on Monday, they should be sacked.
I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out.
This is Diane Abbott. She is like the most useless MP in the Labour Party. She is like such an idiot, and she's in a bit of trouble right now. So we're just watching some old moments.
Just threatening, but you're not prepared to spell out what it means.
I'm just pointing out what the democratic structure is. Jeremy is the one who's been elected by the mass membership.
So what's the significance of that? He's going to sack the shadow cabinet if they don't agree with him?
No. The procedure is what I've said. We'll meet on Monday. We'll debate it.
But what's the point of meeting? He's already said what he thinks. And you're saying
she has actually been in trouble a few times, I think. But now, I think it might be over. We'll see, though.
Mandate. So why bother consult the shadow cabinet again?
Because the leader always consults, and that's what he's doing.
And then ignores them, which is what he's done.
No one is saying he's going to ignore people.
Well, he is. He's spelt out his position in this letter.
People might come back after the weekend, having spoken to people, and they might, because there were some people strongly in favour, some people strongly against, but a lot of people in the middle. We don't know what's going to happen.
But he spelt out his position, as he did on Trident. What's the point of consulting the party?
No, she's not the UK Marge Taylor Greene. I don't even know what would be the equivalent for you guys. I don't think you guys have an equivalent to Diane Abbott. She is just like, she's like, just the easiest, she's like super left wing. She's like a Corbynite. She dated Corbyn when they were younger. Super left wing, but also just dumb as fuck. Just like actually really fucking dumb, and you see it in all these interviews. And like has constantly embarrassed herself and just been just a total weirdo. Her son is a druggie who went on a rampage once. She's an idiot, man. It's just so annoying that she always hangs on. She makes the Labour Party look so just bad and dumb. Like she is just like a right-wing straw man, except it's not a straw man because she is actually just that dumb. She does look a mess. Dude, the fucking... Where is it? The shoes picture. Do we remember this? Do we remember the shoes picture? Can I find... Is there a good resolution one? Here we are. Dude. Wearing 2 left-footed shoes. Like, what... How does this even happen? I don't even know how this happens. How does this happen? It's like, I don't even get it. Like, I'm truly lost. And she's look at her fucking face as well, man. Like, she just looks useless. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything about her, just like public image, just makes her look dumb and useless. It's so annoying that she's still in the Labour Party. I'm praying she's gone now. I'm praying this is the end.
Because in the end, Jeremy believes very strongly in unity.
All right, if it does come to a vote, what is the parliamentary Labour Party going to do? Is it going to be a whipped vote?
We'll tell you on Monday. We're having a meeting on Monday. Then we're going to the parliamentary Labour Party meeting.
What would you like?
I want us to do whatever will keep the British people safe.
I'd like to ask Miss Diane Abbott, you say that you respect the will of the people, but do you have any remorse or any apology to make for the disgusting lie you made against me and millions of innocent people who voted leave, where you said that because they voted leave, they don't like the look of foreign people, they must be racist or xenophobe. Okay. I voted to leave the European Union. That was on the ballot paper. It was not because of the colour of somebody's skin or their ethnicity or where they come from. It was to leave the European Union, and you with so much distress and hurt to me
All right.
It's a disgrace.
Do you know, one of the people I most admire in politics was Tony Benn. And if he was alive today, he would have voted to come out of the EU. So I would never say that people voted to come out because they were racist. But there is no question that in the month after the Brexit vote, we had a 41% rise in race hate. We saw that terrible killing of the Kurdish boy in Croydon. I'm not saying that there weren't good reasons to come out to vote to the EU, but let's be clear about the rise in hate crimes that we've seen since.
Where will the money come from, Diane Abbott? Good morning.
Well, the money will come
I
from...
feel like that's didn't really address the point you made, and also I feel like she probably did say that there are a lot of people voting because they're racist. Okay.
Reversing some of the tax cuts to the rich that the Tories have pushed through. And the tax cut we're specifically identifying to pay for the 10,000 policemen is the cuts in capital gains tax.
Policemen, so we can't have we can't have police women then?
Policemen and women.
Oh, that's all right, just check.
Okay, so, this is the other clip without the gay editing. Let's go.
Yeah, right. So the
Strange
tax...
falls to me to correct you, Diane, but do go on.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the real issues about crime, which people are worried about. And what people are worried about is the rise in violent crime. We've seen in the Met, for instance, gun crime go up by 42% and knife crime go up by 24%. And we believe that more community policemen and women are part of...
Yeah, a lot of people did vote for it because they're racist. Absolutely. But then when a guy confronts you on you saying that, you can't turn around and go, well, there's been a lot of hate crime since the vote. So, okay, well, that doesn't really say anything about the motivations for voting. There could be a million reasons why there are more hate crimes right now. Like, address the fact you said it and whether you believe it. What specifically you believe. I would say, absolutely, if you right now, you're almost definitely some form of racist or xenophobe if you, right now, still think we should be out of the EU. And to be honest, most of the people that I still hear say that Brexit was a good idea are, like, out-and-out FNATs and shit like that. Or at least civic nationalists. But back then, I mean, it was probably a bad thing to say in terms of, like, the PR gain. And there were a lot of arguments that worked on people that had nothing to do with race or immigration. Like the whole... So sending 350 million to the EU? How about 350 million to our NHS instead? Thanks, Boris. Thanks, Boris.
Part of the answer to this.
So how much would 10,000 police officers cost?
Well, if we recruit the 10,000 police men and women over a 4-year period, we believe it'll be about £300,000.
£300,000?
Sorry,
10,000 police officers? What are you paying them?
No, I mean, sorry.
How much will they cost?
They will cost... It will cost... about... About £80 million.
About £80 million?
Yeah.
Right. How do you get to that figure?
We get to that figure because we anticipate recruiting 25,000 extra police officers a year, at least, over a period of 4 years. And we're looking at both what average police wages are generally, but also specifically police wages in London.
And this will be funded by the reversing, in some instances, I think, the cuts to capital gains tax. But I'm right in saying that since Jeremy Corbyn became leader of the party, that money has also been promised to reverse spending cuts in education, spending cuts in arts, spending cuts in sports. The Conservatives say you've spent this money already, Diane Abbott.
Well, the Conservatives would say that. We've not promised the money to any area. We've just pointed out that the cuts in capital gains tax will cost the taxpayer over £2 billion, and there are better ways of spending that money. But as we roll out our manifesto process, we are specifically saying how we will fund specific proposals. And this morning I'm saying to you that we will fund the 10,000 extra police officers by using some, not all, but just some of the over £2 billion pounds.
The 80 million is the figure we use.
Yeah.
But if you, I don't understand. If you divide 80 million by 10,000, you get 8,000. Is that what you're going to pay these policemen?
No, we're talking about a process over 4 years.
I don't understand.
Okay, so how much will it cost over 4 years, you silly bitch?
And what is he or she getting? 80 million divided by 10,000 equals 8,000. So what are these police officers going to be paid?
We will be paying them the average...
Has this been thought through?
Of course it's been thought through.
Where are the figures?
The figures are that the additional cost in year one, when we anticipate recruiting about 250,000 policemen, will be 64.3 million.
250,000 policemen?
And women.
So you're getting more than 10,000. You're recruiting 250,000.
No, we are recruiting 2,000 and perhaps 250. Mm-hmm. And the cost...
So where did 250,000 come from?
I think you said that, not me.
No, I can assure you said that figure because I wrote it down.
What I'm saying about the costs is in year one, obviously, we're getting ready to recruit.
Right.
But in year two, the cost will be 64.3 million. In year three, the cost will be 139.1 million. Right. Year four, the cost will be 217 million. And year five, the cost will be 298 million. And that can be amply covered by reversing the cuts in capital gains tax.
And lastly, you will, I'm sure, be very close to police officers, as I am sometimes, and there are concerns within cities such as London that the dilution of stop and search by the Prime Minister when she was Home Secretary, Theresa May, has in some way perhaps contributed to a 24% increase in knife crime in London. Where do you stand on stop and search, Diane Abbott?
I support evidence-based stop and search, but we know in the past only a tiny fraction of stop and search revealed actual crime, mostly people carrying drugs for personal use. And the reason for the rise in knife crime are very complex. They're to do with young people sadly thinking they need it for self-defence and so on. But we believe that a rise in community policing and community policemen and women engaging in outreach with the community is part of the solution to the rise in knife crime and gun crime.
So would you authorise increased stop? Because there is a body of thought within policing, as I'm sure you're aware as Shadow Home Secretary, that actually we need more properly executed, carefully delivered, respectfully done stop and search. Where do you stand on that?
We need more evidence-based stop and
but
search.
You can't always have evidence, Diane. You know that as well as I do. Sometimes, I mean, they caught the Yorkshire Ripper through a bit of a lucky one, as you'll be aware. You don't always necessarily have that evidence, do you?
We believe in more evidence-based stop and search. And what we found in London is that although levels of stop and search have gone down, levels of convictions related to stop and search has gone up.
Yeah, but knife crime has too, Diane Abbott.
Yes, but there are complicated reasons for knife crime. I'll come back on your programme and talk about the rise in knife crime on another occasion. Sure. But community policing has a big role to play in fighting knife crime and gun crime.
And lastly, the headline is 10,000 more police officers, which is very exciting, but does that necessarily mean that they'll be good? That is to say, if Ford were to employ 10,000 extra people in building their cars, it doesn't mean they make better cars, of course.
Well, you need to say that to the Police Federation. The Police Federation has said that austerity is calling real issues, police forces are struggling to cope, and of course we need more policemen. You need to say to the Police Federation
and
if you
police
think...
women, Diane. You've got a real problem with this, you know. You've got to get into the modern day, Diane. You keep saying policemen. We have police officers.
And you, Nick, need to talk seriously about crime.
I do. I talk about it every single day, I assure you, Shadow Home Secretary, and I've enjoyed talking to you.
So great. She's trying so hard to turn it around to them the whole time.
Thank you for your time.
To tackle teach and class sizes with this money, and also welfare, reversing the cuts to universal credits would be funded by this as well, plus 10,000 police officers. So all of that can fund those four pledges.
I'm confident that we haven't specifically allocated...
Truly, it might have been, like, actually one of Corbyn's worst moves, letting Diane Abbott have, like, any public presence while he was running. It's like baffling. She was so fucking dense. She's just totally shameful whenever she's in public. Just like the whether it's a shoes thing, fucking up interviews all the time. She is just such a... We should be embarrassed of her. You should, like, hide her. Hide her away in like a back room somewhere, you know? Have her stacking shelves. Tell her there's some folders that need reorganizing in like the back of some fucking filing cabinet. And just send her to go do that for the entire election cycle.
To the 2.7 billion.
But you've made promises, Jeremy Corbyn,
No.
Send her into some fucking like closet to reorganize like binders, and just lock the door, and can't go unlock it when Jeremy Corbyn's won the election.
Donald have all stood up and said, by reversing capital gains tax, we will help.
Diane, it's really important, Diane. Diane, it's really important. There's some binders in this closet that need reorganizing ASAP. It's really important, Diane.
Tackle these problems.
You will find that we haven't specifically allocated the money. We are rolling out our manifesto, and this morning I am specifically allocating some of the 2.7 billion to funding the 10,000 policemen.
Okay, so will arts funding schools and welfare still get some?
Start painting a white fence in front of her, and she asks what you're doing, trick her into taking over.
Some of that money? Or have you just said that and you're going back on it?
Cost.
Why are your people, Big Zulu, going after God Empire Eminem and his daughter?
Thank you for the $20. I know what you're referencing. Thank you for the $20, though.
Each item in our manifesto, and if you watch this space, you'll see that our manifesto is fully funded and fully costed.
Okay, but just going back, you have said that reversing cuts to capital gains tax will help arts funding, schools and welfare. Will that be in the manifesto fully costed?
Our policies will be fully costed. And I have to say, I think it suits the Tories not to talk about the loss of 20,000 police officers, not to talk about the rise in violent crime, but to quibble about figures. Our manifesto will be fully costed. And what people want to know, they want answers to their worries about the rise in violent crime.
Okay, well, rest assured, any Conservative policies, we will be questioning them on funding as well. And let's talk about these 10,000 additional police officers. It'll work out one police officer per ward. Is it a bit old-fashioned? Jeremy Corbyn himself called it putting more bobbies on the beat, which itself is an old-fashioned term. Is that the way to tackle modern policing when you're looking at cybercrime, social media campaigns that police need to address, and counter-terrorism? Would that money not be spent elsewhere better?
These will be community police officers. And one of the things that most concerns the Labour Party is the rise in knife crime and gun crime. And there's no question
but what
that
can community support officers do to tackle knife crime and gun crime? Community
outreach, getting people to come forward, to trust the police, to come forward with information. We saw in the very recent terrorist issue in Westminster, one of the reasons that the police were able to track the suspect was family members coming forward. With enhanced community policing, I think the community will be more able.
This person's
to
very Brianna Wu coded. That's facts. There's a couple of Brianna Wus in British politics. I feel like Jess Phillips used to have a bit of Brianna Wu to her as well. But no, Diane Abbott, absolutely.
With important evidence.
Let's talk about an interview that happened here on Sky News over the weekend with the former Prime Minister Tony Blair. He refused to back Jeremy Corbyn to the full hilt, telling Sky News that Theresa May will win the next general election. Said he felt so compelled by the state of the Labour Party and politics at the moment that he wanted to return to frontline politics. In light of all that, is Jeremy Corbyn ready to govern should that call come in June?
Well, of course, Jeremy Corbyn's ready to govern. I mean, Tony Blair's a very talented man. He clearly has a big contribution to make in the community, but I'm surprised he puts so much confidence in polls and is assuming the Tories will win. We are fighting this election to win, and we believe we can.
You say, of course, Jeremy Corbyn is ready to govern. Why is he ready to govern?
Well, apart from anything else, Jeremy Corbyn has rather more experience in Parliament than Tony Blair had before he became leader of the party. Jeremy Corbyn...
Just a year ago, Labour MPs, you know, cast a vote of no confidence on him. Does he have the support within his own party to form a government?
He absolutely has the support. Jeremy Corbyn has the values which reflect the values of this country, and we are rolling out the policies which will meet the real concerns of people in this country, particularly on policing and the rise in violent crime. And it's because we're talking about the things that the British public are concerned about that I believe that we are ready to take office.
But are you ready to take office as just one party? There is this talk of a progressive alliance. Senior Labour MPs have written an open letter talking about tactical voting, basically, saying that some Labour candidates should stand aside if, for instance, the Green Party candidate is more likely to win that seat, and vice versa. Would Labour form a progressive alliance? Is there going to be tactical voting ahead of this general election?
You can't stop individuals voting tactically. That's always happened. But the Labour Party is fighting to win this election and take power as the government. We're not talking about...
Dude, this is just like terrible. She's like so annoying. Even just the way she talks is annoying. Like the forced soft-spoken. So
Will Labour MPs stand aside, though, if other party MPs are more likely to win and beat the Tories?
Labour MPs will not be standing aside. We are fighting this election to win.
OK. Diane Abbott, thank you very much for your time here on Sky News Sunrise this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Embarrassing that you don't know your figures on a key policy.
I do know my figures, and as you will know, I did 7 interviews that morning, and that was the 7th, and I misspoke. But I do know my figures.
You didn't know them in that interview. Let's have a listen to it. In fact, it was with LBC and Nick Ferrari. Let's just take a listen and viewers can make up their own minds.
So how much would 10,000 police officers cost?
Well, if we recruit the 10,000 police men and women over a 4-year period, we believe it'll be about £300,000.
£300,000 for
Sorry,
10,000 police officers. What are you paying them?
No, I mean...
That's you?
Sorry.
That's
How
you?
much will they cost?
They will cost... It will cost about £80 million.
About £80 million?
Yeah.
Diane Abbott, that is hugely embarrassing. It's not just misspeaking.
Dude. I love fucking British politics, man. And that is very embarrassing. You're retarded.
Diane Abbott, that is hugely embarrassing. It's not just misspeaking, to quote you a bit earlier. You just don't know your figures and you're not on top of your brief.
If I didn't know my figures, why was I able to do 6 other interviews and give the figures correctly? And
if you get into power, you might well be Home Secretary, therefore in charge in many ways of the defence of this country. Jeremy Corbyn got into all sorts of problems recently when he was asked pretty straightforward questions about how he would defend us if he was Prime Minister. Let me ask you some similar questions. Would you be prepared to authorise, along with whoever was Prime Minister, the use of a nuclear weapon from our nuclear armament if we had to?
on the question of nuclear weapons, you will know as well as I do that if we press the button for a nuclear weapon, we're not just incinerating millions of people overseas.
Sure, but my question is, would you use it? We have a nuclear armament. Would you be prepared to use it? People, I think, are entitled when they vote on June the 8th to know whether a Labour government would actually use our nuclear deterrent if it came to it.
A Labour government to do everything in its power to protect the people of this country. And
with Shadow Home Secretary, well, basically any shadow position means that they're in the shadow government, so they're in the opposition party that isn't in power, but they come up with like people to match the other side, their government positions. So there'll be like a shadow defense secretary and a shadow home secretary and a shadow chancellor that would just, like, you know, talk about what they would do and talk about how bad the current one is. That shit, you know.
We believe that there are more important and more vital ways to protect the people of this country than actually nuclear weapons. Terrorism.
So, Diane, just to clarify, I'm sorry to push you on this. Would a Labour government use one of our nuclear weapons if it had to? In other words, if we got information that a rogue power was about to unleash one on us, would you be prepared to defend our country by going first?
We're always prepared to defend our country. We believe that jihadism, chemical weapons,
Okay.
these are more pressing dangers.
So when you say you're always prepared to use it,
it's like you pick it's like she picks the most retarded shit to say from each side. Yeah, the real danger right now is jihadism. Okay.
Power.
So I'm just
with
trying
a
to
nuclear weapon.
I'm just trying to get a yes or no. Would you be prepared to preemptively use a nuclear weapon if it was to save millions of lives in this country?
We don't believe that the most pressing threats to
It's
this
yes or no.
country-
It's yes or no. It's one of the single most important questions any government in the world can have if they have nuclear weapons, is if you have to use it, would you use it? Why can nobody on the Labour side say yes or no to that simple question? Yes or no?
Because we believe there are many more pressing threats, and the debate around pressing the button...
But the question isn't about what the most pressing threats are, you stupid bitch. Dude. You're just being asked, if that was the most pressing threat, would you do it? Dude.
Tracks from talking about the real pressing threats, chemical warfare,
What could be more
jihadism.
pressing than somebody about to nuke us into extinction? Tell me, what is more important in a nuclear age than a rogue power?
Bro, there is sumo wrestling happening on Twitter right now. Guys, I'm seeing sumo wrestling on Twitter right now. Have we seen this? There's sumo wrestling happening on Twitter right now. Drew Pavlo quote tweeting Nick Diorio, who's mocking him for crying about Superman being anti-Semitic, with a picture of him saying, "Get a hobby, MF." And then Nick replying, "Was my dinner I ate last night also promised to you 3,000 years ago?" Now, Drew isn't actually Israeli or Jewish, so it doesn't quite make sense. However, the Israel reference is slightly amusing.
A Kim Jong-un or somebody like him or an ISIS leader about to unleash a nuclear weapon on this country, you're in charge. I need to know before I vote for you, are you going to press that button or are you not?
We believe that loose talk about pressing the button is actually a threat to world peace. We believe the way that Donald Trump wakes up in the middle of the night and talks about weapons, that's a threat to world peace. We want to keep this country safe, and we are dealing with pressing and immediate...
Well, Glongus, yeah, I agree. Fundamentally, the question might not be the smartest, but the response should be something like, it should be, if we were forced into a situation where we had to use nuclear weapons, yes, we are prepared to use them. Just that simple. Just say that. If that was what we were forced to do, we would do it. You just say that. But she can't just say something like that. She's doing so, oh, there's more pressing threats. No, just say, all they want to hear is that you are not principally against entirely the use of nuclear weapons. That is a tactic that you reserve and are prepared to use should you be forced into that position. That's all people want to hear.
And in having a nuclear armament if you're never going to use it, what's the point?
Because obviously the point is that Corbyn was super pro deproliferation, right? Disarmament. So people want to know that he's not just, that if they put Corbyn in power, he's not just going to be totally limp if that's the situation. He's not just going to give up and let us die. That's what they want to know.
If you're never going to use it, what's the point?
What is the point of ignoring the more pressing threats to this country?
What could be more pressing? Seriously, What could be more important?
No, Piers. A few weeks ago, I was in the House of Commons when a terrorist burst in and killed a policeman. It's that terrorism and jihadism which is a more pressing threat.
So
if you
what
don't
if
believe me, ask anybody.
What if ISIS get a nuclear weapon and are about to use it, and you know where they are and you know where they're going to fire it from? What are you going to do?
We're dealing with pressing immediate threats, as we saw.
You just said terrorism was a bigger threat than nuclear attack. I'm telling you, what if a terrorism group gets a nuclear weapon and is about to attack us with it?
I'm saying that terrorism is a more immediate threat. And I'm also saying...
That isn't an immediate threat, Diane. That is the immediate threat I'm presenting to you. A terror group with a nuclear weapon about to fire it on this country. You're in charge. What do you do?
You're posing a hypothetical threat. I'm talking about the real threats of terrorism.
Okay.
And also real issues around crime, which is kind of what I want to get back to.
Yeah, blowing people up with a nuclear weapon is kind of criminal. Anyway, Diane, we've got to leave it. You've made your position crystal clear isn't quite the word, but I appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Well, the reason why they're probably talking about jihadism is because I'm pretty sure this is in 2017, which would have been when there was like the fucking Manchester Arena bombing and shit. So everyone was like, that was the line. That was what everyone had to pretend to take super seriously.
Thank you.
Diane Abbott, thanks very much indeed.
I can't. I mean, it's yes or no. You use it or you don't. Don't you? Is it me? Am I the one that's mad here?
Our position is that in 2 days' time, on Thursday, the British people will have the opportunity to force her resignation by voting.
I mean, yeah, but that's a separate issue.
Labour in the general election. That is our position.
But 3 terror attacks as well in the last 2 months. Is that not grounds for calling for her resignation?
We think this can be resolved at the general election, but it is a fact that we've had 3 terror attacks in 3 months, and now people are finally focusing on the cuts in police officers, which all occurred on her watch. She has a way in the past 24 hours of talking about the problems as if she hasn't been Home Secretary for 6 years. This comes back to her.
But are you sure that the reduction in numbers then leads to the greater likelihood of a terror attack?
No, I'm not saying it leads to the greater likelihood of a terror attack, but in terms of the investigations and finding out what's going to happen, the reduction in numbers has meant there are less community police officers, and it is community policing which gives you the links to the community so you can actually find out what is really going on.
OK, so you've got 10,000 more police officers coming on stream. How many of them will be involved specifically in community policing aimed at Muslim communities?
Well, I don't know about being aimed at Muslim communities, but they definitely will all be community police officers.
The 10,000 community police officers then?
10,000 community officers up and down the country in England.
So no
and
more
Wales.
detective inspectors, no increase at any other level, just with community police?
We're starting with community policing because we think
Well, sorry, is that all the 10,000 or some of them?
We're starting with 10,000 community police officers because we think that helps make people safe and will help to fight terrorism and other forms of crime. But that is not to say...
And can I just be here, they're sworn officers, are they? They're not community police support officers?
No, these are sworn officers. 10,000 sworn officers in every ward in the country. And we think that's the beginning of making the British people feel safe. And we think Theresa May should be embarrassed that numbers dropped on her watch.
What role will they have? What role will they have in the communities they go into looking for terrorists? Chatting to them, or will they act then as the eyes and ears of the security services and the other forces, the anti-terror police, who have to come in and arrest them?
Their initial role will be to make those important links with the community. It's concerning, both in Manchester and in London Bridge, that members of the community said they tried to warn the police about their concerns about some of these individuals.
Well, they rang an anti-terror hotline.
And somehow nothing happened.
Well, it wouldn't have been community police, though. I mean, the community police are going around having a cup of tea in the mosque or something,
I
aren't they?
think that everybody... all the stakeholders in community policing know they play a very important role in building links between the community and the police.
I mean, because that linking in the community, Jeremy Corbyn was quoted as having said something very interesting in 2014, that he had been speaking to people who were attracted to what ISIS is doing. I mean, it's a way of understanding the ideology. Have you done that?
No. No, because
Don't you want to understand what motivates these young men and women?
Everyone that I speak to.
How do you even know? Wait, this is a based question, actually. This is like designed to trip up like lefty Labour fucking MPs, no? You're trying to get them to like talk about whether they understand or want to understand fucking terrorism or not. It's like you can literally rape them on both angles. Bro, that's so fucked up.
And disgusted by these terror attacks.
But there's no doubt there's an ideology there, isn't there? Isn't it worth talking to them as Jeremy Corbyn says he's done and trying to find out what motivates them?
I have a Muslim community in Hackney.
Don't you think Jeremy Corbyn's right when he goes and talks to all those terrorists, Diane Abbott?
Horrified by these attacks.
Let me ask you about these attacks, because I revisited, as I'm sure you have recently, the...
Community policing is like, man, how would you describe it? It's like having police that aren't just, like, going around interrogating people and arresting people to go and, like, go to fucking schools and mosques and shit like that and go and fucking hang out with people, basically, and go and talk to people, and then just get sort of, like, told about what's going on. And be, you know, and be able to not cause a bunch of shit when they go and start arresting people. No? Isn't finding out why they're doing it kind of important to figure out how to stop it from happening for good? Yeah, obviously, most people could agree with that. The thing is, Diane Abbott is being put in a tough position here because Jeremy Corbyn has a long history of going and meeting, like, terrorist leaders and shit. Shaking hands with them. So there was, and obviously there was a lot of terrorism around this time. And so there was a huge, Jeremy Corbyn's under a lot of shit for that. And Diane Abbott is being asked, so you're taking terrorism seriously. Do you think it's a good idea to go and be like, you know, your party leader, the guy you're supporting? You know, he goes and talks to terrorists all the time. He says, you can understand their ideology. Don't you think that's a good idea? And obviously she must think it's a good idea to understand the ideology to stop it. But is she going to say, yeah, it's really good that Jeremy Corbyn's going and talking to terrorists? No, that's a tough sell. That's a really tough sell right now. So she's in a she just can't figure out how to handle this question.
The Lord Harris inquiry, the recommendations that he made to Sadiq Khan about preparedness in London for a terror attack. Do you think some of the things he said in there were prescient and should be acted on? They haven't been acted on yet.
I think we do need to revisit that report because... And we do
Which part of it?
Well, I just think it's about preparedness and resilience.
But he made some very specific recommendations that haven't been acted on. Do you know what they are?
Well, I know, I mean, he was talking about preparedness and resilience, and I do think that we need to act not necessarily on every specific recommendation.
But you remember the report came out only in October 2016. The mayor, the newly elected mayor, commissioned it. It came out in October 2016, and Lord Toby Harris had some bullet points. You know, that's what I've read through. I mean, what did you make of those? The specifics.
I thought, because I know Toby Harris, he's a very
long-standing
London
very thorough-blown
politician.
inquiry, I must say, and review.
I thought it was an important review, and I think we should act on it, but obviously working with stakeholders.
But what should we act on? I mean, you know, what do you think of the recommendations about the various police forces in London?
You mean the idea that they should work more closely together?
Well, he suggested they should amalgamate.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea, but I think you'd find resistance.
I'm sure getting rid of all the white people would stop crime. That's a very intelligent chap is just right there. How much anime have you seen in your life? I don't know. Can I rattle off everything I've seen? Let me see. I've seen NGE, Death Note, Code Geass, Steins Gate. Baccano. Trigun, Cowboy Bebop. Welcome to NHK. JJK. A good amount of Dragon Ball. Oh, don't say Boku no. That is not what I said. Good amount of Bleach. Not all of it. I dropped FLCL. I don't actually like it that much. I haven't seen GTO yet, no. I do need to see GTO. I didn't finish Soul Eater either. I was reading the manga. I picked up the manga instead because apparently the other ending sucks. Well, I watched one episode and I didn't continue it. Tetris. That's how. Ghost in the Shell. I'm pretty sure I've seen Ghost in the Shell. Movies as well. I've seen like what movies have I seen? I said NGE. I've seen Gurren Lagann. I've seen Gurren Lagann. Haven't seen Gantz. Haven't seen Mind Game. Nope. I saw season 1 and a bit of 2 of JoJo and I dropped it because it's boring as fuck. Seen Akira. I've not seen Eramonger Sensei. No. I have seen Paprika. Yep. Oh, Hellsing Ultimate. I said Bebop. Said NHK. I haven't seen Lane. Dropped No Game, No Life. That shit sucks. Sword Art Online. I watched Sword Art Online. Saw Chainsaw Man, yep. Never watched Nichijou. No, none of those. I saw that 86. Is that what it's called? That show about the Spider Mechs? That shit sucks. I haven't seen Monster. I did not watch Rent a Girlfriend. I watched, I have seen some shitty, like, romance type shows. I've seen, like, Golden Time. And I saw that. Oh. Harry Suzumiya. I've seen that. I've seen Kill la Kill. Yep. I dropped Attack on Titan off, like, season 2. That shit sucks. Mob Psycho. Yep, seen Mob Psycho. That shit's awesome. I don't think there's anything else. There's got to be other stuff I've seen. I'm just forgetting. There's loads of stuff I'm forgetting. Because there's like that one show. Do you remember that one show we looked up that was like, they live on like a trash island or something and they have that one mech? You guys know. We looked this thing up. Do you remember this? I've seen FMA. Yep, FMA and FMAB. I watched, fuck, what's that dog shit as well? No, not Megas XLR. No, not Getchikuta. No, not Eureka 7. Gargantia and the Verdurous Planet. That's it. That one. That one. And, what else? I saw Infinite Stratos as well. That's terrible. That's really bad. Yeah, I've said this before. Me and the people I was friend, like basically my whole friend group watched it when we were teenagers. Okay, I was being included. I had to watch it. I had to watch it to be in the discussion. The Raccoon Gang. I don't remember any of the characters from it. I just remember I watched it. I think I watched the first season of Akamega Kill as well. That shit was terrible. I haven't watched K-On! Facts. I haven't watched ReZero either. No, that shit looks ass. Dead Man Wonderland. That's another one. I think that's as many as I can remember. Oh, I watched some shitty like music anime. Dude, I can't remember what it's fucking called. It's like some super just like gay music anime. Not like actually gay. Your Lie in April? I don't think so. No. I think it had like white in the title or something. I'm not sure. What is it called? No, I can't see it. Anyway, I'm just go back to this. There's loads of shit that I started and dropped as well. Like I started and dropped shit like Toradora. No, I don't think it's White Album. I just saw that when I was looking for it. It was like really, I can't even remember this shit, man. It was like so long ago now. Okay, anyway, let's go back to this.
London to the amalgamation.
Have you actually read the report?
I have.
Okay, what about when you talk about, what about the physical resilience? Again, I'm referring to this because it seemed prescient.
Yes, I mean, I think physical resilience is important. I think that...
But there was a specific aspect of physical resilience.
Well, I think that physical resilience is important.
Yes, well, I mean, but the specific aspect was he talked about putting up more barriers in the light of the Nice attacks. He mentioned that in October 2016.
Yes, we're now putting up barriers on bridges And you'd think we might have done that before, particularly after what happened on Westminster Bridge. But now, in the past few days, we've been putting up barriers on bridges.
So would you recommend putting up barriers around more public spaces? For instance, you know, there are many spaces, even just in London, where people gather. Do you think around parks, around Covent Garden, around places like that?
Well, certainly in Westminster, which is where I work, there's been a lot more barriers and bollards to protect us from terrorism, and I think we need to consider that for other places in central London.
It's the final numbers round of the contest, and Jamie, it's your pick.
I'll go for 1 large and 5 small this time.
1 large and 5 small. Now you've got the lead.
Now I'm winning, yeah.
Right, so for the last numbers game of this week, we have 10, 2, 7, 3.
Half of Eric's talking time on the Wick panel was talking about how good of a person Destiny is, by the way. Bro, there's
8 and 50. And the target to get... Oh, there's no point. 500.
Well, the best of luck to you.
Come on, no, don't.
Now, let's see if either of them have managed this.
About 50.
And you're both...
Okay, that's an edit, isn't it? That's just an edit.
Now, let's see if either of them have managed this.
About 50.
That is an edit.
And you've both written it down, haven't you?
Well, the last time I looked, we had of 100.
I think I can do that in my head now.
Okay, so retarded. Okay, so I think there's one more. So she's been suspended from the Labour Party today, but she was suspended once before as well. Okay, that's part of the time before. Okay, if this works. My internet. That's a timeout. Just for saying nice internet.
Firstly, we have Diane Abbott, whose future in the Labour Party is in doubt because she was disciplined for claiming Jewish people could not suffer racism. She'd suggested Jewish people had only experienced prejudice, not racism. Now, let's bear in mind...
She wrote that in a letter to a national newspaper.
She did, but she is also the most racially abused MP in the Houses of Parliament. So I wonder, Kevin... She's wrong about this, obviously.
Absolutely
wrong. She's absolutely wrong about this. But is she seeing it through the lens of her own experience? She experiences the most visceral racism.
Yeah, well, but
she's just not seeing it through the lens of someone who's Jewish, who also experiences visceral racism, or a traveller.
That is where you would think she would be more...
Well, the thing is that there's an argument here where you could say it's not technically racism because Jewish isn't like a race. But colloquially, obviously, we would use racism that way. And she's not saying that. She's doing the retarded, racism is power plus prejudice. Which is like the dumbest fucking idea in the world.
Sympathetic and understanding about other people who are also victims of racism, instead of trying to produce some hierarchy in which you're downgrading the racism suffered by others. I mean, look, Jewish people, she also mentioned, the Irish and travellers, suffer enormous racism. It mentioned the Holocaust. King Edward I expelled Jews from England in 1290. This has gone on for centuries. Why she was attempting to downplay it, I do not know. I do not know.
I mean, to be fair to her, she
apologised profusely.
She said wholly...
disassociate herself from her own views.
She says she was wrong.
But she says she wholly and reservedly withdraws my remarks and disassociates myself from them. It's a huge dilemma, though, for Keir Starmer now. Because if he now says, which some people would support, she's experienced terrible racism, she's apologised, let's kind of move on, not treat her like Jeremy Corbyn, who has had the whip seemingly permanently removed now, then some people would understand that. But then, how does he square that with his desire to show that Labour has moved on from the anti-Semitism of the past? And this is the issue of the letter. If she's saying that the wrong draft of the letter was sent, if she can produce the proper draft and show that it said the right kind of things, maybe. But if not, I just wonder, what does Keir Starmer do now?
How could any drafts with all that offensive stuff in there be sent from Diane Abbott's office? How could it's just it's poisonous what was written in that letter.
Likening prejudice, racism to abuse people suffer because of their hair colour. I hear racists say that all the time.
Yours terrible.
That's what they say.
It's not like writing a letter, putting it in the post and sending it to the newspaper.
So she wrote this really embarrassing letter where she said that Jewish people can't suffer racism, basically, and she'll come for it. Okay. Now, she's been suspended again today, so let's pull up the BBC article about it and see what's happened. I actually don't know yet. I actually haven't even looked at it. So I'm going to find out with you guys. Suspended by Labour Party after comments about racism. MP Diane Abbott has been suspended by the Labour Party pending an investigation into comments she made about racism, the BBC understands. The move also means that Abbott will sit as an independent MP, known as losing the whip. Labour said it would not be commenting while this investigation is ongoing. It comes after a BBC interview where Abbott was asked about a 2023 controversy when she was suspended as a Labour MP for a year after comments she made about racism in a letter to a newspaper. Asked by the BBC's James Naughty if she looked on that incident with regret, she said no, not at all. In that letter, the Observer, so it's about the same thing. It's about the same thing. Just doubled down 2 years later, like an idiot. In that letter to the Observer newspaper, she wrote that Irish, Jewish, and traveller people undoubtedly experience prejudice that is similar to racism. It is true that many types of white people with points of difference, such as redheads, can experience prejudice, but they're not all their lives subject to racism. Abbott was quick to withdraw the remarks, which were heavily criticised by Jewish and traveller groups, and apologised for any anguish caused. But she was suspended from the party and only readmitted just before last year's general election. In the latest interview, she said, "Clearly, there must be a difference between racism, which is about colour, and other types of racism. Because you see a traveller or a Jewish person down the street, you don't know. So it's just like retarded. You do know with a lot of Jews. And with travellers, you know the moment they talk. It's just like retarded. You don't unless you stop to speak to them or you're in a meeting with them."
The UK must be famous for the strength of their ropes for how often this lady is suspended without issue.
Thank you for the $5. Huge appreciate it. Thank you. I just think it's silly to try and claim that racism, which is about skin colour, is the same as other types of racism. Okay. So, okay, she is almost making the argument here that it's different because racism is specifically about skin colour. But then would you say that you can't be racist to, like, an albino black person? Or if there was, like, a black person that was mixed to the point where it wasn't necessarily immediately obvious that they're black, maybe they could just be sort of, like, a bit darker. And then you're... What, you can't be racist to that person? Because they're not, like, visibly different enough? Or yeah, like a Slav, you can't be racist to Slavs. It's just like, this is a retarded way of looking at it. Especially when you can tell with, like, a lot of Jews that they're a Jew. Like, saying it's silly to try and claim that racism, which is about skin color, is the same. Well, it is basically the same. Sorry, but it is, like, basically the same. Just because it's along different lines or you use a different thing to identify it. I think all, you know, bigotries that are along some kind of ethnic or whatever lines are pretty similar. They sometimes rely on different tropes or express themselves in different ways, but they're pretty much the same concept. You have an issue with a group that is built off of either a caricature or stereotype. You generalize that. Yeah. Calling it like silly. This is just like dumb language as well. That you sound dismissive. Like, yeah, she sounds like she's just a fucking idiot, as always. Just, burying herself. Abbott posted a clip online of her BBC interview after news of her suspension emerged, writing only, "This is the clip of my interview," and did not respond to requests for comment at that time. They gave a brief statement to BBC Newsnight. It's obvious this Labour leadership wants me out. God bless. Thank you, Keir. Send her over to Corbyn's party. Let us sink that. Let us sink Corbyn's party. See if Corbyn takes her in. Where are we? My comments in the interview with James Naughty were factually correct, as any fair-minded person would accept. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner told the Guardian newspaper there's no place for anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and obviously the Labour Party has processes for that. Okay. Retarded response. Diane had reflected on how she'd put that article together. And said that was not supposed to be the version, and now to double down and say, well, actually, I didn't mean that. I actually meant what I originally said, I think is a real challenge. Yeah. If you get suspended and you apologize and say, oh, that was a mistake in the second draft, you can't then be shocked when you get suspended for doubling down on the draft. Right? That's fucking retarded. Like, you got suspended for this in the first place. You came up with an excuse to get out of it. And then you're going back on your excuse and saying, no, I didn't mean that excuse. Like, yeah, fuck you. Former Labour Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell posted on X to defend his colleague. He said, before people, including Labour Party spokespersons, comment or decide upon Abbott's fate, could I suggest they actually listen to Diane Abbott's interview on BBC Reflections, in which she forthrightly condemns anti-Semitism and discusses different forms of racism. In her BBC interview, Abbott was asked if she would condemn anti-Semitic behaviour in the same way she would condemn racist behaviour against someone because of their skin. She replied, well, of course, I do get a bit wary of trying to pin the anti-Semitic label on me because I've spent a lifetime fighting racism. Yeah, I don't think she's anti-Semitic. A lifetime fighting racism of all kinds, in particular fighting anti-Semitism, partly because of the nature of my constituency. Longest serving female MP in the Commons, don't care. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't call her anti-Semitic. I think that's fucking stupid. Well, she is a total idiot, and she'd make up a bullshit excuse to get out of it the first time, and now she's taken that back. So you can't be surprised when you get suspended again. I just hope she goes to Corbyn's party. Just praying.
John, sorry to throw this one at you, but I'm just seeing a Labour Party spokesperson has said Diane Abbott has been administratively suspended from the Labour Party pending an investigation. We cannot comment further while this investigation is going on. And this follows those comments she made, which she then rode back on John, and then was allowed back into the party, and now she said that she actually stood by what she said, basically.
Well, it's because she said she stands by what she said, of course, that she's in trouble. I mean, there really is a purge, isn't there, going on at the moment? And I mean, we talked earlier about the 4 Labour MPs suspended who are accused of repeatedly breaking the whip. Now, this is Diane Abbott, of course, who there's absolutely no love lost between Diane Abbott and Sir Keir Starmer. I always notice when she gets up during Prime Minister's questions, just to the right of where the Prime Minister stands, he can barely bring himself to look her in the eye. But clearly, she's in trouble again. There'll be a lot of sympathy for her. OK, she might hold left-wing views that not all Labour MPs agree with, but she is a popular Member of Parliament. She is the mother of the House, as she calls herself, after Harriet Harman quit as an MP. And, well, will there be a way back for Diane Abbott? This means, of course, that yet, I mean, along with John McDonnell, who was probably Jeremy Corbyn's most senior ally in Parliament, he was a Shadow Chancellor, Diane Abbott was the Shadow Home Secretary, and well, they really are coming for the Corbynites, aren't they? The Stormtroopers, as they're known, and this is going to cause more division and rancor. The
Stormtroopers, let's go. The Stormtroopers are fucking taking Diane Abbott out back. Let's go.
The Labour Party. There are those who feel that the Prime Minister is being too heavy-handed.
No, I've heard everyone called a Stormtrooper. There was that fucking right-wing guy on YouTube who was who at the farmers' strikes, and he was calling the police the Stormtroopers, or farmers' strikes, farmers' protests. They were doing like the big thing with the tractors. He was calling them the police the Stormtroopers, shutting down the protest. And now they're calling, I guess, senior Labour MPs stormtroopers?
This is a different issue, of course. This is the anti-Semitism row, which the Prime Minister's vowed to stamp out. And of course, it's not quite the same as rebelling, although Diane Abbott is no fan of the current regime. And, well, the rifts, the splits, the divisions are growing deeper all the time, it seems.
Starmer is the best option, unfortunately. I agree, Starmer's let me down. But he is still the best option. There is no one better than Starmer in British politics right now.
As we approach the summer recess, the PM kept talking in Prime Minister's questions yesterday about how MPs need a break and so on. Well, there's no break from the factionalism and infighting, it seems, in the PLP as we approach the summer recess.
And I just see, I'm just looking at what administrative suspension means, and it does, I understand, have the automatic effect of suspending the Labour whip in the House of Commons. So, as you say, I mean, it's interesting given all this talk of a left-wing party.
Well, indeed. I mean, Diane Abbott, of course, is close politically to Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn's party, Zara Sultana, rather jumped the gun and caught Jeremy Corbyn off guard, and they haven't launched that party yet, but opinion polls have suggested it might actually do quite well and take votes off the Labour Party. Now, would Diane Abbott leave the Labour Party? John McDonnell has insisted he's got no intention of leaving Labour, hopes to get the whip back. Diane Abbott, of course, is probably Labour to her core, but, I mean, she's being provoked, isn't she? They really are. It does look as though they're out to get her friends would say. One of her close allies, Belle Ribeiro Abbey...
You're right that taking votes off of Labour isn't what we need. However, it is obvious that current strategy isn't working. And so people splitting off is a natural consequence. So Starmer just needs to recognise that he needs to start playing the lefty populist game a little bit more. Drop the reform skinwalking.
Was one of those who was disciplined last night. She was a trade envoy. And as I say, the factionalism, they really are out to get the left at the moment. There's no attempts to heal the wounds. And we were talking earlier about how in the Blair government, of course, Tony Blair used to tolerate dissent far more than Keir Starmer is. Big rebellions. I mean, there were regular rebellions in the Blair years, and yet there weren't these suspensions. There weren't this sort of action taken against not just veteran rebels like Diane Abbott, but the younger new MPs that were punished last night. And clearly, this will be seen very much as a war on the left by the Prime Minister and his allies and his team in Number 10. So there'll be sympathy for Diane Abbott. She is a trailblazer, one of the first black MPs in Parliament, 1987, along with Paul Boateng, Bernie Grant and Keith Vaz. And there is a lot of affection for her in the House.
I don't know why. God knows why. Alright, I wonder if I can listen to this without getting struck. She did an interview. Sign in to listen. No? I'm signed in on my other browser though.
Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Politically from BBC Radio 4. This is James Naughty, and this is Reflections. Conversations with leading public figures who look back on their lives in politics. Reflecting on a public life today is Diane Abbott, one of the most prominent figures on the Labour left for nearly 4 decades. A thorn in the side of the establishment for most of her life, she now rejoices in the courtesy title of Mother of the House of Commons, as its longest continuously serving woman member, having been first elected in the East End of London at the height of the Thatcher era in 1987. And even when she hasn't been sitting on the opposition benches, as for example a Labour MP during the Blair years, hers has usually been a rebellious voice. And yet, when you tried to get into the civil service, when you were leaving Cambridge, and you were interviewed by the formidable figure of Mary Warnock, who was chairing the board, and she asked why you wanted to be a civil servant, you gave a very bold answer. You said, "I want power." What made you say that?
Oh, because if you're black and your parents left school at at 14. They left school in rural Jamaica at the age of 14, both of them. And you're a woman, power seems very remote. But I was always a very positive person, and I wanted what young women like me didn't have, and that was power. And in a way, I mean, I've never been a government minister or anything like that, but I've had more power than you might have expected.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I mean, we were debating assisted suicide. But I was able to get up in the chamber and have my say, which is a form of power. The power to...
Oh, okay. Maybe we should watch that as well. So she did this recently as well. She spoke about assisted suicide in the House of Commons. She's actually anti-assisted suicide.
Voting for this bill this morning.
Can I have Mother of the House, Diane Abbott?
I should like to congratulate the members of SPEC for bringing forward this bill, which has been the occasion of a very important national conversation. But I would recall to the House that in 1969, Parliament voted to abolish the death penalty for murder. Public opinion was actually against this, but...
Oh, apparently, about Stop Killing Games. This isn't related to Stop Killing Games, but apparently today, or recently, the UK set up some video games council because they want to try and incentivize video game production in the UK, which is pretty epic because actually many good video game studios have come from the UK, like Rockstar. So, hey, listen, we're praying. We're praying. Maybe we'll get our own Expedition 33 soon, okay?
MPs believed on a point of principle that the state should not be involved in taking a life. It was a good principle in 1969, and it remains a good principle today. I am not against legalising assisted dying in any circumstance, but I have many reservations about this bill, and in particular, I do not believe that the safeguards are sufficient. They are supposed to be the strongest in the world because of the involvement of a High Court judge. But the divisional courts have said the intervention of a court would simply interpose an expensive and time-consuming forensic procedure. And Sir James Munby, the former president of the Family Division of the High Court, has said recently, only those who believe implicitly in judicial omniscience and infallibility, and he adds that he does not, can possibly have any confidence in the efficacy of what is proposed. Is a judge supposed to second-guess doctors? Will the judge make a decision on the basis of paperwork? Or will there be a hearing in open court? And where will be the capacity in the criminal justice system to deal with all this? So far from being a genuine safeguard, the involvement of a judge could just be a rubber stamp.
No, I don't really know, like, what the arguments here are. Like, is she right? Are the safeguards bad? I haven't looked into it at all. Yeah, I'm trying to look for other people saying the same thing. I'm not seeing, like, usually when there's, like, a bill going through, there's, like, big criticisms of it, there'll be some, you know, group or something that've done some write-up that explains what the issue with it is, but I can't see anything like that. Approved safeguards for nurses. Scotland. What's this? If it's to become law, it needs to provide safeguards. It must be able to work in practice. Bill would allow terminally ill adults who have 6 months to live to request assistance to end their life. Provide several steps, checking that the person has a clear, settled, informed wish to end their own life, has made the decision voluntarily without coercion or pressure. The need for High Court approval and its impact on court resources must be addressed. If Parliament deems okay, so that's what Diane Abbott's talking about. If Parliament deems a step necessary, then the bill needs to be clear on how the High Court would deal with the applications and increased workload. Lawyers may have a role in providing advice and representation, in which case legal aid should be made available on a non-means-tested basis. Currently, medical practitioners do not need to provide reasons for their conclusions in statements. After conducting assessments, Parliament should consider requiring more information to be recorded to help the High Court assess whether the scheme's requirements have been met. Regulations, codes of practice, and guidance on core issues must be publicly consulted and published for any change to take effect. Okay, it sounds bleak. What I would want to know is basically... I honestly, I'm not, like, hugely fussed about assisted dying. I do think, in principle, you should be able to choose to die. If you know, especially if you're terminally ill. However, this sounds bleak. I think fundamentally my opinion on this bill would just be, do you save more money from putting it in and having these safeguards in? Or is it actually cheaper to just not do this bill at all? And not have the safeguards and not have the people die and just let them live it out? That's honestly the deciding thing for me on this. Like, which is gonna cost the country less. So...
More than 2/3 of our care proceedings involving the most vulnerable children in our society, they cannot complete those care proceedings within 6 months. Yeah. Does my learned friend agree that there is a real concern that this safeguard is not deliverable or risks being the rubber stamp that I know that my learned friend doesn't want it to be?
I entirely agree with my honourable friend. Robust safeguards for the sick and dying are absolutely vital to protect them from predatory relatives, to protect them from the state, but above all to protect them.
I think this is just going to essentially be a rubber stamp thing, though. That is, I think it is. I don't know if you like what difference. Like, people with 6 months left to live. A judge and a lawyer, unless the patient is expressing and wanting, like, second opinions and shit, a judge and lawyer is not going to facilitate or get or, like, double-check the doctor's assessment of whether they've got 6 months left to live or not. And if they're making that decision, and we believe them to have 6 months left to live, ultimately, it's like, okay, I don't know that there's this huge need for super extensive safeguards. Like, we're not talking about healthy people ending their lives here. We're talking about people that have been declared by doctors to have 6 months or less left to live. I don't know how much intervention a judge or whatever even needs to have in that.
From themselves. There will be those who say to themselves they don't want to be a burden. And I can imagine myself saying that in particular circumstances. Others will worry that assets they'd hoped to leave...
Yeah, sure, Nina, I understand that, but what can a judge or a lawyer even say about that shit, right? If the patient is, like, going along with it and not expressing that they want to seek, like, additional opinions to check that they're actually going to die or whatever, what can a judge or lawyer... Let's say the doctor and the caregiver or whatever have colluded to cook up the idea that this person's terminally ill and it's all fake. What can a judge or... How is a judge or lawyer going to be able to tell? They don't know anything about medicine. No, like, if the doctor's saying something and giving the reasoning for it, I don't see why you would expect a judge or lawyer to be able to figure that out.
Are being eroded by the cost of care, and there will even be a handful who will think they should not be taking up a hospital bed. We are told...
I'm very grateful to the Honourable Lady giving way, and she makes her case powerfully, but can I ask her to comment on the current situation, whereby people ask themselves the questions she has just asked today. What safeguards are there for those people? What inquiry is made before those people pass away and often take the most drastic and horrific action to do so?
But if this House passes this legislation, the issues that I have raised will become even more foremost in people's minds. We are told that there is no evidence of coercion in jurisdictions where assisted suicide is possible. But people do not generally write letters to sick relatives urging them to consider assisted suicide and then put the letter on file. And coercion in the...
So yeah, 6 months terminal now. Next week, all those people on benefits for anxiety. Okay. Don't threaten me with a good time, okay? Listen, that sounds great.
Family context can be about not what you say, but about what you don't say. The long, meaningful pause. Yes, of course.
Giving way. As a medical professional and surrounded by even more senior medical professionals, we can all say we all miss things when there's tangibles in front of us. The shadow on x-rays, the markers on blood tests. We miss things as professionals when we can actually see them. What evidence will we have, or what security will we have of picking up things that we can't see, like coercion?
That is the point. Coercion is something that you will have no material evidence of.
She is such a terrible speaker.
You cannot see. People keep saying that this bill can't be amended. Of course, any future government could bring in new clauses. And we can see what happened in Canada, which introduced assisted dying in 2016 for adults with terminal illnesses. In 2021, it was extended to people with no terminal illness and the disabled. And in March 2027, anyone with a serious mental health problem will also be eligible. The House should remember that no single organisation representing the disabled supports this bill.
Would the Honourable Lady give me? Thank you. On that point, my
Is it? I guess I just don't really like yeah, you do want safeguards in place. Do people really have that much of an issue with assisted dying? People kill themselves all the time. People are always going to kill themselves. People are always going to want to kill themselves. And we put animals down all the time as well, so I don't see what the big deal is. Keep the government out of it. But keeping the government out of it means you have to do it in some, like, disgusting way. You have to go, like, blow your fucking brains out across a wall or something. Throw yourself off a bridge or some shit. You laugh, but it's insane to let your kid scream in agony from cancer when you'd put your dog out of its misery out of compassion. Well, yeah, because the reason they're not... The reason they're keeping that kid alive isn't out of compassion, is it? It's, selfish. Yeah, I just don't have a big issue with it. I feel like it's just not a big deal. I would just... this is not, like, something that's very compelling to me. In fact, I might stop watching this and go back to the BBC Sounds thing. I might even skip the part where Diane Abbott's talking about this, because I just don't really care about euthanasia. I do not care about euthanasia, so stop the rumours.
Okay. The power to make not just your voice heard, but other people's voices heard.
Let's go back to where that feeling came from. When were you conscious that you wanted, I think as you would put it, to make a difference in some way, publicly?
It was going on a coach out into Cambridge
not be going
when
east.
I was at grammar school. And I was just entranced. And I knew I wanted to go to Cambridge. And I did, despite some opposition from my teachers.
I assume it wasn't just the physical beauty of the colleges. There was something about the atmosphere that excited you.
Well, it was the physical beauty of the colleges, actually, but it was also that sense that you were at the heart of things. You were in a place where you could make things happen. One of the great things about my time at Cambridge was at a women's college, Newnham. And Newnham, all the students were obviously, but the teachers were women, the head...
There was an extraordinary cluster of people there.
We had a drug Tillo or Nigel
I don't want to know about her life.
I don't know, 20 years later.
That was quite a jump for someone who had grown up feeling that...
I want to do good. And that piece of careers advice, which was, whatever you do, don't learn to type. And if you do learn to type, don't tell anybody. Because it was all too often the case that female graduates got steered into roles which were really glorified, sort of admin, secretarial roles.
So you never learned to type?
I never learned. So to this day, I can't type.
Quite early on, you were becoming interested in what we might call radical politics, certainly politics on the left. And it excited you as a young person, didn't it?
Oh, yes. I mean, this was the time of the Civil Rights era in the United States, Martin Luther King. So that was very exciting, that sense of possibility.
Can't read either.
But closer to home, I was very interested in the politics of the left and in feminism, and all those things excited me, empowered me.
And you began to make contacts on the left of politics. There's a wonderful account of your early meetings with Jeremy Corbyn, which you've given in your memoir, A Woman Like Me. You tell some story. I mean, I just cannot imagine what it was like to go on a date with Jeremy Corbyn in those days. Tell us.
Well, I met Jeremy.
Yeah, tell us about the date with Jeremy Corbyn.
He was at council. I was active in the party, and we became quote unquote friends. And we were living together, and I was always complaining that he never took me anywhere. Moaned and moaned and moaned. So one day he said, "Right, we're going to go out." So I thought, wow. And I got changed to something smart. And we got in the car and he drove. And I was like, we could go to a wine bar. We go to a Chinese restaurant. Anyway, we drove and we got to Highgate Cemetery. And he took me to the tomb of Karl Marx.
I think
that was Jeremy Corbyn's idea of a date.
Yes, I think this is in the category of you couldn't
based. Wait, Corbyn's based?
So that relationship, obviously you remained political friends for a long time, but that relationship really sounds as if it was doomed from that moment. A visit to a tomb is not.
Doomed is kind of a negative phrase, but it was clear.
It wasn't going anywhere.
It wasn't going anywhere.
And what did you make of the Labour Party at that time?
Well, the Labour Party at that time was still a very male environment. There were, of course, some amazing women in the Labour Party, Barbara Castle. But I got involved in the Labour Party in London when the London Party had a reputation as a very left-wing part of the National Party, and it had some very prominent left-wingers in it, like Ken Livingstone and Jeremy and so on. So I got swept up in the London left and never regretted it, actually, although it hasn't helped my career exactly.
And did you always know that you would try to get into Parliament?
No, I didn't.
No.
I mean, when I was at Cambridge, it was full of people in the Cambridge Union and whatnot, who wanted to be MPs.
And you weren't in that gang?
No, I was never in the Cambridge Union gang. I remember going to the Cambridge Union and I went to a debate. I got up, I said a few words, and afterwards I heard that people were very impressed. But of course, even then, I realised they were only impressed because it was a black girl who could stand up and make a speech. And I thought, I'm not going to be patronised. Never went back there. So yeah, I wasn't part of that sort of gang of Cambridge Union people who are going on to become MPs. It was just that becoming
at least you know
MP,
she benefits from low expectations, okay?
Becoming a councillor and so on. Being an MP started to look like the next step.
One of the things that's striking, I think, about you is that despite your position on the left, you've avoided that sense of intense tribalism, which sometimes affects people in that position.
I mean, I have very strong political beliefs and have done since I was a schoolgirl. But I try and see people as people. One of my good friends is Jonathan Aitken. And
former Conservative MP.
Yes, former Conservative MP. And he's my son's godfather. And, you know, he's a Tory. And he's a Tory that's spent time in prison, I should add.
Yes,
but he's also a good person in a way. And so we've stayed friends over the years.
I suppose some people listening to you might say, you've been involved in some pretty factional causes in your time. Come on, don't talk about, hands across the aisle all the time. You've been a battler.
Yes, like I say, I know what I believe in and I've been prepared to fight for it. Not just as a Labour politician versus Conservative politicians, but as a Labour politician versus other Labour politicians. So yeah, I have been a fighter and continue to fight.
When you got into the House of Commons in 1987, you were confronted by a very powerful Conservative Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher. Did you find yourself admiring some aspects of Mrs. Thatcher?
No,
You didn't?
No.
You couldn't?
She stood for everything I disliked. She privatised.
Thank you.
Because here was a woman whose days in the mid-80s.
Ritualised. Well, I don't know, 200 years. But that's how long it takes the House of Commons to change. Yes, ritualised. I also remember coming through what we call the members' lobby.
Yeah. What were the first big moments in the House of Commons that convinced you that you were in the right place, that you could play a part in the activities of the left where you were...
Can I say this?
You know, I never doubted that I was in the right place. There were things about it that I initially thought were quite strange, and they must have found me quite strange, I suppose. I remember, I think it was the first day or the first few days, there was an MP there called Tony Banks, who was a London MP, and I knew him because...
He was a parliamentary neighbour.
Yeah. And he took me into what was then called a smoking room. No one smokes in Parliament now, but took me in there, and he bought me a bottle of champagne, and we polished it off. And as we were leaving the smoking room, Tony turned to me and said, "Did you see all those Tories staring at you?" And I think that's why he'd done it, to give them a little bit of a shock. A black woman in the smoking room drinking champagne.
Drinking champagne. If we go back to your conception of power, did you always want to be an outsider? Or did you ever think, I want to be an insider?
No, I never wanted to be an outsider. I just wanted to stand up for what I believed. And if that meant I was outside the circles of influence, well, that's just how it was.
So be it.
Yeah, so be it. I wanted to stand up for things I believe, whether it's racial equality, whether it's human rights. And, you know, there's more than one way to influence events.
The causes that you've attached yourself to, like civil rights, like racial equality, and so on, and you've spoken very powerfully about these things in the Commons on many occasions. Do you feel that the kind of change that you wanted to see has actually happened in the course of your lifetime? Has it been moving in the direction that you felt was the right one?
Uh-huh.
In some...
Dude, surely the answer is yes. Come on. You're really saying Britain is not less racist now than the fucking 80s? Come on.
Very material ways, there's been a lot of change. There are many more black and Asian members of Parliament than there were. When I became an MP, there were black MPs, Bernie Grant, Paul Boateng, and one South Asian MP. That's the change I wanted to see. So in terms of representation, I think in terms of politics, I'm not so sure. At the moment, immigration is a big issue. And Keir Starmer made a speech talking about if there were too many immigrants, we might become an island of strangers. And I was a bit taken aback that he should talk like that. And it's like, maybe not going backwards, but we are stalling if we can talk about immigrants in that way.
Would you...
I don't have like a crazy issue with what you said there, I guess. I think that's fine. It was a bad speech. He shouldn't have said that shit. Fucking idiot. Does kind of give the whole argument to reform, but it's not from a like, it's not because I'm like, wow, that's so mean to immigrants. It's really dumb.
Would you be confident in asserting that the kind of crude racism that you experienced as a schoolgirl and as a member of, you know, the community would be less likely to happen now, or is it still there?
I don't think people would be as crudely racist now as they did when I first went into public life. They might think the same thoughts, but they know it's not acceptable to express them.
You represent, in the East End of London, in Hackney North and Stoke Newington, a multiracial community, a huge Bengali community there, for example.
Oh, yes. And that's what makes it a great place to represent. We've got a big black community. I mean, historically, it had a big Jewish community. It was one of the biggest Jewish communities in London, and it remains one of the biggest Jewish communities in the country.
You mentioned the Jewish community in your constituency. You got into terrible trouble for a letter you wrote to the Observer about racism, and you appeared to suggest, in the view of some of your critics...
So, remember, after she got in trouble for this, she said she sent a draft of the letter by mistake, and she didn't mean to say that. The actual version we're doing way better. So she made an excuse to get out of this trouble.
It had a big Jewish community. It was one of the biggest Jewish communities in London, and it remains one of the biggest Jewish communities in the country.
You mentioned the Jewish community in your constituency. You got into terrible trouble for a letter you wrote to the Observer about racism, and you appeared to suggest, in the view of some of your critics anyway, that the kind of anti-Semitism that the Jewish community suffered, or travellers suffered, or Irish people suffered, was somehow different from the racism that you as a young black person had suffered. You were suspended and there was a great hoo-ha. Do you look back on that with regret?
No, not at all. Clearly, there must be a difference between racism, which is about colour, and other types of racism, because you can see...
Yeah, but like, what is the difference? Okay, so explain what the difference is. You have to explain more than that. What is the difference? How are they different, you fucking idiot? Because you're saying, well, they're different. Well, there must be a difference because it's about colour. Yeah, we can agree that they're different because one is like more about color, the color of skin. Others are more about like specific ethnic backgrounds or whatever. Sure, but is that the only difference, or are there other differences? Like, how are these different? Do you think one is less severe? Do you think one is less, like, how are they different? Explain that.
Traveller or
Yeah.
Jewish person walking down the street. You don't know. You don't know unless...
You do a lot of the time, actually. You do a lot of the time.
You stop to speak to them or you're in a meeting with them. But if you see a black person walking down the street, you see straight away that they're black.
It's
The Hasidic Jews of Brooklyn...
I wonder what ethnicity or religion these guys are. I can't possibly tell. Which community do you think these guys come from? Or are they? What do you think these guys are? You guys like Muslim or something? Obviously not all Jews are Orthodox Jews, but come on. Like, a lot of the time, you can tell. You can tell when someone is Jewish, you can tell someone is Irish, and then when they start talking, you can tell whether they're a traveller. Okay?
They are different types of racism.
But the effect is the same. If you are going to a synagogue on a Saturday morning and you have to have guards outside because some people might come along and want to insult you or even throw things at you, that's pretty much the same as the kind of thing you describe in your book as happening to you as a black person. The fact is, one is a person of colour and one isn't. Is neither here nor there. If you suffer it, it's still damaging.
It is here because you can spot that person of colour from hundreds of yards away. That is what is different.
You withdrew the thing. You said, look, if this is misunderstood, as you thought it was, then I apologise for it. But fundamentally, you don't believe you did anything wrong, or you didn't attempt to say something that you didn't believe.
I just think that it's silly to try and claim that racism...
Why? Explain it,
which is about
retard.
skin
What?
colour, is the same as other types of racism. I don't know why people would say that.
But you would, I assume.
Okay, but you've got to explain more than that. You can't just say it's silly. Explain why you think this. Explain your thoughts. Dude, she's so annoying. Holy fuck.
You condemn anti-Semitic behaviour in the same way that you would condemn racist behaviour against someone simply because of the colour of their skin.
Well, of course. And I do get a bit weary of people trying to pin the anti-Semitic label on me because I've spent a lifetime fighting racism of all kinds, and in particular fighting anti-Semitism, partly because of the nature of my constituents.
I want to take you to the internal business that happened in the Labour Party afterwards, because you felt that you were being, I suppose, colloquially, hung out to dry.
You know, what happens. In the end, Keir Starmer had to restore the whip to me. I got tremendous support locally. We had a big rally on the steps of Hackney Town Hall. And in the end, Keir Starmer and the people around me had to back off because of the support I had from the community.
There was a hoo-ha before the last election about whether you were going to be allowed to stand, and there were conflicting noises coming from the party hierarchy about it. You powered on. Do you think they were trying to get you out?
Oh, I'm sure they were trying to get me out. And I couldn't.
So it's totally justified to suspend her for this, 100%. This is like the dumbest shit in the world. You can't make an excuse when you get in trouble the first time, double down in this interview, talk about it again and say the exact same stupid shit you said in the letter that you claimed was a draft that wasn't meant to be seen. It's insane. You're a total fucking idiot.
Have just backed off.
But you didn't.
But no, I wasn't going to. And there was a kind of hint that if I step down, I might...
Like, she had every opportunity here to come up with a better way of saying this or a way of explaining what she actually thinks. But she didn't say anything. She goes, oh, they're not the same. They're not the same because you can't immediately tell if someone's Jewish or not, even though you can. But they're not the same. Like, okay, dude. Lay out, at least give, like, some kind of fucking reasoning here.
No, I was never going to do that. I was never going to do that. And I'm a Labour MP today, and I'm grateful.
Presumably that makes you feel like, I don't know, an elder stateswoman or something?
Not exactly, although I am the longest-serving female MP.
Are they the same? No, but I would say they're only superficially different, right? It's a superficial difference. It's not a material difference, whether it's about whether it's just skin color or not. It's not. It doesn't matter to the conversation. It's like, yes, racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. These are all quite separate concepts in like that they are. Well, they're not separate concepts, but they're like they're for separate groups, and they're different along those lines because they apply to different groups. But in terms of like being forms of bigotry, no, I don't think it would be silly to just group them all as like racism or something. If you just call that all racism, if you just call someone racist for being like that, I don't see that as a big issue. I don't think it's silly to suggest they're the same. I think they are fundamentally, there's enough in common for where they are basically the same. But it's just superficial differences based on the group you're discriminating against.
It was a few weeks before the general election, and Harriet Harman called me. And I've known Harriet Harman for 40 years, from when we were both young radical women working for what was then called the National Council for Civil Liberties, but it's now Liberty. And she rang me and she said, "Do you realise?"
Well, yeah, though you could say this. You could say, well, racism against black people expresses itself very differently to racism against Jewish people in the UK. But then you've got to explain how it's different, right? So she could maybe say, well, I don't think Jewish people are excluded from hiring practices or anything like that quite so much. But they are subject to a lot of targeted violence. You could say that, but she doesn't say any of that. She doesn't say fucking anything. She says, oh, they're different. It's silly to say they are. Okay.
That you're going to be mother of the house. And I said, no, I didn't realise. I said, yes, you are. You're going to be the longest serving woman MP.
Comes with age, you know.
Exactly.
A number of elections. Harriet Harman has been a great support to you, and when you got into public hot water, your son going to a fee-paying school, she was very supportive of you, I think, wasn't she?
Harriet's a feminist, and although she and I are on different wings of the Labour Party, there's been...
No, she's not right. She can't be right because she didn't say anything. She just goes, they're different. It's silly to say otherwise. And like, she asks why, and she's like, well, they're different. It's worthless.
Points in my life where she has come out in support of another woman. I remember...
Oh, yeah, then she compared it to gingers, too.
I was the left candidate for
in 2010.
Yeah. And
yeah, she compared it to fucking gingers.
You had to get a number of nominations in order to get on the shortlist.
Yeah.
And it was the day, it was the morning, I didn't have enough nominations, and the closing time was supposed to be 12 noon. So I went to Harriet and I said, I just don't have enough nominations. What am I going to do? And she was the acting leader at that time. And she said to me, I will extend the deadline. And I was able to scrape together the number of nominations.
You never thought you could win the leadership of your party, did you?
No, but I
You were going to have a go.
Well, the left always likes to run a candidate for leadership, realising we won't win, but we like to run a candidate for leadership in order to sort of campaign for the issues that we believe in. The next leadership election was 2015.
And guess who won that one?
Well, we all gathered together in a room and we knew we had to produce a candidate. And we went round the table and one person said, I've done this before, I'm not going to do it. Another person said, oh, I'm too old. And we went round, everyone had an excuse. And we came to Gerard, liberties and so on. Well, it is very painful. When I first became an MP, if you wanted to abuse an MP, you wrote a letter, you put it in an envelope.
Influence of social media.
Minister, he would have taken forward the causes he believes in, like, freedom for Palestine, civil liberties and so on. He'd have taken forward those causes and he would have done it to the best of his ability.
If you look at the changes in politics and political life, one of the big ones, of course, is the influence of social media. Now, you've had to take a lot of pretty vile abuse. How do you cope with that?
Well, it is very painful. When I first became an MP, if you wanted to abuse an MP, you wrote a letter, you put it in an envelope and you went and posted it, right? Whereas now you can abuse an MP...
Before breakfast, and then walk off and go to work.
Exactly. Yeah. So the volume of it is much worse than when I was a new MP. And it's also very, very unpleasant in a way it wouldn't have been. I mean, to be honest, part of the way I cope with it is I no longer look at it. My staff look at it.
Yeah.
I remember a young woman came to work for me, a young black woman came to work for me, and she was very shocked. And she said, before she came to work for me... I've
got to be real. There's nothing that annoys me more than hearing politicians cry about getting hate on social media. That's actually just really annoying. Like, no one cares. Actually, no one cares. Shut the fuck up and do your job. Are you responsible for deciding the outcomes of people's lives? Yes, they're going to get pissed off with you sometimes. Stop being so fucking pathetic and do the job.
Having seen the abuse that I got online and so on, she had decided that she couldn't cope with it.
Is this your last Parliament, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know.
But if your health holds out, I know you've had health difficulties and you have diabetes, and which is a thing you have to cope with. But if your health holds up, would you like to just keep going as long as you can?
You don't want to tempt fate.
No, that's fair enough. But knowing when to go or when not to go is a difficult thing. You must have seen it with colleagues who've clung on too long, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, the most obvious example in recent times was Joe Biden. If he hadn't hung on, the Democrats might have won the presidential election, and we wouldn't have some of the issues in relation to Donald Trump that we have today.
It's interesting, people in politics, whether they're in government or simply in party politics in opposition, often find the drug of power or influence irresistible and find it pretty hard to stop, don't they?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad to be an MP. I still enjoy it. I'm still able, I think, to intervene in a way which is constructive. But it's not my place.
Okay.
It's not my place. I'm still the Diane Abbott that stepped into grammar school age 11, and it's just not my place.
That's enough of that.